Hey, this is Bruce, and this is my review of the HP Stream 7 tablet. Don't go away. I think this will be a great review. Hey everybody, thanks for watching my video, and I always appreciate it when you +1, share, like, and my videos. And if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. I just recently purchased the HP Stream 7 from the Microsoft Store for $99. And you know, a tablet, any kind of device, is just as much about the experience of the product as it is the specifications of a product. But let's go ahead and get the hardware side out of the way with this tablet. It is a 7-inch tablet running a Intel Atom quad-core processor, 1.8 gigahertz. It features two cameras, a front camera and a rear-facing camera back here. The front is 0.3 megapixels and the back is 2 megapixels. It has a 1280 by 800 pixel display. Comes with 32 gigs of flash storage, and you can put in a micro SD card in the back to expand that. I think up to 64 gigabytes if I'm correct on that. It also comes with 1 gig of RAM. It weighs about 12.6 ounces, or just a little over 3/4 of a pound, and it is fairly substantially well made. It's got a nice feel to it. Fits well in the hand. It also supports wireless B, G, and N. Does not do AC, and also it has Bluetooth 4.0 on it. So that's kind of the specs, and of course it's running Windows 8.1, I believe the 32-bit version. So unboxing the tablet is actually presented pretty well. It was wrapped in plastic with like a pull tab that you pull out. And then going through the box, basically there was some paperwork on there, and also I found a wall charger and a micro USB to USB cable in the box. So all in all, it was presented pretty well. Let's get right to it. Like I said, it's all about the experience. And I'm going to go ahead and fire this up. When you first boot this device, there we go, and now I've got to plug in my password. I have to do that all the time. Be right back. There we go. Now that I've had to log back in, at first boot, you're reminded that this thing is basically a PC. And that's kind of interesting. You know, I'm coming from the world of iOS. And iOS is strictly designed as a mobile operating system, but when you use this device, you are reminded more than once that it is basically a PC in a tablet form factor. In fact, my wife refers to it as a tablet rather than a tablet. It's a mixed environment. It really is. For some of you who found the installation of Windows 8 on a desktop rather jarring, it's the same experience, I think, on a Windows tablet as well, because there are certain times you're taken back to the desktop interface, and I find it kind of interesting, and I question why it's even necessary. I mean, who's going to use the desktop on a 7-inch tablet for the most part? I just don't really see that happening. Let's talk about basic performance. So one of the questions is, how snappy is it? And it's actually pretty fluid, going back and forth, bringing up things like mail. One thing I was kind of disappointed in is that I personally use Gmail for my business, Google Apps. There was a way to connect my Google account to the mail, and it connected to contacts, but it would not, there's no way to make the Google Calendar sync with the Modern UI application on this. So I actually had to find a third-party application in the Windows Store to work with my calendar, which is called One Calendar. I believe it's free. That's kind of cool. But just moving around, generally doing different things, and I'll bring up CNN on that. So yeah, it's loading. There we go. You can see it brought it up. is fairly quick, even with only a gigabyte of memory. It's not too bad. Now, you can't compare. I don't think it's fair to compare a $400 or $500 tablet with a $100 tablet. So I think you get quite a bit for your money, but there's obviously a lot of trade-offs involved. Poor cameras. I tried shooting some video with this and taking photos. The video had drop frames. It was very noisy. The photos were also had a lot of noise in them. And I found the native tools in the Windows tablet for correcting the photos, things like saturation, all that, kind of difficult to use. You had to tap and then kind of move your finger in a circular motion to adjust things like saturation and so forth. Certainly not as, I think, well done as what you would have on, say, iOS or an Android device, but I don't know realistically how many people will use a tablet for taking video or photos anyway. I think most phones do a whole lot better job. As I said, it fits comfortably in the hand. I think one of the big things about getting used to a Windows 8 tablet is going to be dealing with the Windows Store. And I started looking for a native YouTube app, and I could not find one, so I had to find a third-party app. And apparently there's a lot of YouTube apps out there that are not official YouTube apps. Some you pay for, some you don't. Many are of dubious quality, and I think that's a genuine complaint about the Windows Store for a lot of people. In fact, as I understand it, Microsoft just pulled down over 1,500 apps that were basically bogus apps that were doing other things than what they said they were doing. Microsoft is now attempting to clean up the Windows Store, and they're going to have to if they're going to see success on this. Now, as far as battery life goes, I've had it for a couple days now. From somewhere between 4 to 6 hours of use, I begin to really see the battery drop way down really, really quickly. That's not watching a lot of video or anything like that. That's just using apps like, Facebook, Flipboard, Twitter, web browsing, that sort of thing. It begins to kind of conk out on you a little bit. Speaking of the native apps in the store, Flipboard, for example, and Twitter, even though they're native, I just don't see the depth in those applications I do on iOS. For example, let's say Twitter, the Twitter app, my saved searches and all that, not there. Also on the Flipboard app, I don't get as much history like in the Twitter feed, Facebook, or Google Plus as I do on iOS. And I find that a bit of kind of a problem. Also, when you look at the options for the applications, the native applications, I find them somewhat lacking. In other words, I think the experience of a Windows tablet, if you come from the world of iOS or you come from the world of Android, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed with a lot of the Windows modern applications, as they tend to lack in options and just don't compare as well, in my opinion, with at least on the iOS side of things and also the Android side of things. Getting back to the desktop, I'm going to go ahead and bring that up here. There it is, and I'll go ahead and rotate the screen for you. And there you have a full Windows desktop, and I just accidentally turned it off. There we go. Why does it not stay on? All right, there we go. Hopefully, there's a little side switch here. I don't know if you can see it. There's the power, and you have a rocker switch for your volume up and down. Anyhow, you have the Windows 7 desktop. I just don't see that as being usable and making a whole lot of sense. Now, this device comes with Office 365, and what they don't tell you when you open up, there's nothing in the packaging that you get in the box that gives you a code or anything to redeem that. What you actually have to do is you scroll, and then you will find, there we go, a tile. You tap that, and then that will take you to the desktop to install Office 365, which you have up till June the 8th to redeem that. I thought it would have been handy to have something, and I discovered that quite by accident, and it would have been handy in the box, I think, to have that bit of information available. I really do. So that, I think, bothers me a little bit. It really needs to have also the typing experience on it. You don't have the suggested, iOS spoils me anyway with the word suggestions. It learns as you type the words to use. None of that is available on here as well, and I think that's something really necessary. Now, as far as other features on the phone, you do have a micro USB connection here for charging the device, and you have a 3.5mm headphone jack. See if you can see that on there. And on the back, on the bottom, you have a small speaker. I have to tell you, the sound coming out of here is just horrible. It sounds terrible. I've cranked it up all the way, and it sounds very tinny. You'll want to use this with headphones or earbuds. But be warned, there's a number of people complaining that they get a lot of static in those with this device. So that's another trade-off. To access the micro SD card slot on the back, you actually have to use your fingernail and pry off this little plastic back cover to put in the micro SD card. There's no slot on the side, which I think is a glaring design flaw with this tablet, and hopefully they'll improve that in the next generation of this, as well as giving it a little bit more memory. Like I said, I've used it for a couple days. Rotation tends to lag at times. It's not very fast, the accelerometer. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure. But anyhow, yeah, it's not really lightning quick. So the big things to take away on this device, you can't reasonably expect it to match a $400 or $500 iPad or even Android device, as far as specifications go and so forth. However, I think this is a nice little device. I really do. I think it's a nice little device for the price, but you understand that there's major trade-offs with the specifications and performance of this device. Theoretically, you could use it with the wireless display. It does support Miracast. And I actually seen someone who found a USB to HDMI cable and hooked it directly up to a 1080p monitor. And of course, you could use a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard. And yeah, you would have a functional desktop PC. But even if you did that, I mean, it's not going to be very powerful at all. The integrated graphics or the Intel HD, you're not going to do any kind of gaming or anything like on that. I mean, for light web browsing, Facebook and email, and probably even running some of these Office apps, you might be okay before you got a lot of, stuttering and so forth because of the lack of memory in the machine. It's only 1 GB, right? So look, folks, this is no Surface, okay? It's not. It is a low-end tablet that thinks it's a PC. However, the tablet side of things, in my opinion, have a lot of room for improvement, especially the quality of the modern UI software. That's where the problem really lies. So far, what I found, most of it just pales in comparison, in my opinion, with the quality of software that you'll find on iOS and even Android for that matter. So is it worth it? At the end of the day, is it worth the $99? Well, it's complicated. I'm going to say if you have no preconceived notions of how a tablet should be, not spoiled by iOS or a great Android experience, then you might get used to this. And if you like the tile thing and you're comfortable with it, then it's probably not a bad investment. But all in all, it is what it is. It's a $99 little mini PC that does pack quite a punch for the price, but it's not great. And I think you're probably better served saving your money, investing in something a little bit nicer. Certainly a larger screen. I think 7-inch, that's another problem I had with it. Scaling on the fonts looked really bad. And again, I guess that's because the iPad is a Retina display, and this is only a 720p display basically. So of course text isn't going to really pop on it, but that's neither here or there. But as far as generally speaking, looking at watching some video on there or checking your email or reading the news, it's not too bad of an experience. It's probably a great little tablet to give a kid, and you're not going to worry about it as much as you would a $400 or $500 tablet. Your experience with this might be different than mine. It's all about user experience, and truthfully, coming from iOS to this, I wanted to do that. I wanted to see because I knew what the Windows 8 experience on the desktop was like on a non-touch environment, and that wasn't pleasant for me. And so I wanted to see what the Windows 8 experience in a touch environment was like, and this probably doesn't give it a fair enough shake. Another thing I want to point out before I go, the Surface employs 10 points of touch on the screen. This only does 5, so it's got a much higher resolution for touch than what this does. And that at times makes the touch interface feel like it's unresponsive. You'll tap, 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 tap an element on the screen, and it just simply just doesn't work. It just goes away. But I wanted to point that out as well. So my review of this is this. Ultimately, my ultimate conclusion. For $99 for a device, if you just want to get a handle and learn about how it all works and play around with the Windows 8 experience on a tablet, this is probably not a bad way to get around. It's certainly a whole lot cheaper than a Surface. But I think your money is better spent ultimately on an Android. If you're using the tablet as a media consumption device, which I think most people do, I think your money is going to be better spent on an Android device than it is going to be on one of these HP Stream devices. However, if you're an IT pro, there's some uses to having the desktop and, doing things like remote access or whatever. But I think for most people, tablets, especially this size, are a media consumption device. And this thing just is not ready for prime time as a media consumption device, in my opinion. But I'd like to hear from you in the comments down below. I'm Bruce Naylor. Have a good week out there. I'll talk to you later.